Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much, and welcome back, everybody. There's a very important proposition that you're going to be voting on in a couple of days here in the state of California. It's Proposition 64, and I say this is the proposition where AIDS is declared a disease, a communicable disease, and it also states that AIDS victims should be isolated from general society, and I say, I think it's right. What do you say? Let's face it, AIDS is an infectious, contagious, and communicable disease, and any contagious disease, the people should be isolated, right? Now we have some people here, and your name is?
I'm Rich Urigian, Wally.
Rich Urigian, and?
My name's Dan Nolte.
Dan Nolte. All right, Dan. Now, Rich, you are, hold it in the audience. You are against Proposition 64. Why would you want to see AIDS victims running around spreading their infectious disease? Why?
Wally, you of course, we admire Ronald Reagan. We respect what he thinks and what he says, and also that the people he appoints, including Mr. Coop, who's the Surgeon General.
Don't read from notes. Just
it's the newspaper, Wally. It's the newspaper, you idiot. It's the newspaper, you idiot.
No call.
You moron. No. Now shut up.
Welcome back. I'm Wally George, and we're discussing Proposition 64, which would claim and prove that AIDS is an infectious, contagious, communicable disease, and would have AIDS victims isolated from society. Now, I have a doctor here who is an expert, and you say that you have your expert. Well, I have a doctor right here in the studio that I'm going to bring up, Urigian.
Well, Dr. Mengele was a doctor. That's a good point.
Well, listen. No, this man knows what he's talking about.
Let's see, Wally.
Well, we'll get him up here. But first, we have this Dan Nolte. You've heard what we've been talking about. Why do you think that the proposition should not be passed?
Well, you said earlier that the number of AIDS cases, that number's going to quadruple if this passes. You know why? Because people are going to be afraid to go in and get tests to see if they have AIDS. So they're not going to know if they have it. They're just going to spread it. It's just...
Wait a minute. It's not going to help. It's not going to do that at all. What it is going to do...
The system is fine how it is. This is just going to mess everything up.
When the system is fine as it is, the victims of AIDS have doubled in the past month.
It's going to quadruple if this passes. Don't you understand?
No, it's not. Obviously, if AIDS is spreading so quickly, something must be wrong. I say that we're getting it from people in casual contact. But the worst thing about this disease...
That's ridiculous. If it was from casual contact, the whole world would have it by now.
Well, how would you know?
Because it's been along for such a long time.
But don't you know
that common sense?
You don't even know what common sense means, you little jerk.
I do.
If you had any common sense, you would realize that there is a 5-year incubation period for AIDS.
That's right.
You could catch AIDS, and you wouldn't know until 5 years, possibly, that you ever had AIDS.
That's right.
You may have AIDS right now, and I wouldn't doubt that he does have AIDS. And all these people who are against Proposition 64, they're all using the slogan, "Fight AIDS, not people with AIDS." We're not fighting people with AIDS. What this proposition is trying to do is protect the people in America without AIDS, right?
Legally, how are you going to do it?
It's very simple. The way you do it. With anybody who has a contagious disease, what you do is you hospitalize them. You hospitalize them in a very comfortable way.
Who's going to pay for it?
Well, listen, I don't care how much it costs.
Who's going to pay for it?
We are going to pay for it.
People don't want to pay taxes now. People don't want to pay taxes now. You're going to get them to pay for AIDS victims? Sure, Wally, that's going to happen. The same time that Monsanto stops doing your hair.
You know, I don't care how much it costs. If it costs millions or billions of dollars, if we're going to save American lives, then we got to spend that
money. This isn't going to save American lives. It's just a waste of time. It's a waste of money. It's about $3 billion it's going to waste.
We have Dr. Robert Strecker. Doctor, would you come up to the podium here? All right, now, Dr. Strecker. Hold it. Everybody in the audience, quiet down. Now, Dr. Strecker, you're a medical doctor? Yes. Okay, now, you have studied AIDS, have you not?
Yes.
Now, you know, you've heard of what all of us have said. You've read everything in the newspapers. This Proposition 64, are you in favor of it or are you against it?
We're for it.
You're for it. Now, why do you want to see Proposition 64 passed?
Because I think it's important to understand that what the proposition would really do is it would make the disease a reportable condition to public health officials, which is what it should be.
Absolutely, yeah. What else? Do you consider AIDS, as it says in the proposition, to be an infectious, contagious, communicable disease?
I think that there's no doubt that AIDS is at least sexually transmitted. Right. That's known. And there is a little proof that it's not transmitted in other ways.
There is no proof, right?
Right.
Then you agree with me, as many doctors have, as the American Medical Association has stated, as I said, and I'm sure you probably know yourself, they were interviewed, many members of the AMA were interviewed on ABC Radio Network, and they were asked, is it possible, doctors, many doctors were there, and you are one who will testify, and they said, is it possible, doctors, that AIDS can be contacted by casual contact through saliva, mucus, or whatever? The answer from the AMA was, it is possible, but not probable. That's not good enough for me. What do you think? Now, doctor, would you agree that it is possible that you could catch it from, it's possible to catch it from casual contact?
I think that it's not impossible. It hasn't definitely been proven that it's casually contagious in the way that most people would think of casual contagion, but it's certainly not been ruled out yet, and I think that everybody needs to consider that. I think it's also very important to consider that this disease, as we understand it, is probably not really just a homosexual disease, but may well infect heterosexuals as well as homosexuals, and they need to keep that in mind when considering a proposition.
So why do you think, doctor, there's so much opposition to Proposition 64? Is it mainly because LaRouche is behind it?
I think there's a mix-up between the politics of LaRouche and the science of the disease. And, you know, people are considering that because LaRouche created the measure, they've mixed up the politics of Lyndon LaRouche, who may or may not be correct on this, or may not be correct on other things, are mixing up his politics with the science of this disease.
So you are saying, and this is a medical doctor who has studied
I went to school in Mexico, and he's, you know, anything has to do with LaRouche.
Get out of here. Now, note, you've heard what this medical doctor, this expert who has studied AIDS has said, and he said the proposition should be passed. How do you answer the doctor?
I want to ask him, what do you think about LaRouche? Do you believe?
It has nothing to do with it.
Yes, it is.
Politics.
I want to know why he agrees with Proposition 4. I think LaRouche is a big part of why he thinks that way.
Oh, no, I don't agree with many things that LaRouche says.
What about the Queen? The Queen is a drug pusher. Do you agree with that?
No. The present Queen of England, there's no evidence that she's a drug pusher, and you couldn't verify that without inquiring into her records. But I don't think there's any doubt that in the past that England was involved in running drugs into China, and anybody who knows anything about history can tell you that that's the reason that Hong Kong was lost to the Britons, and that's the reason that Hong Kong as a British colony was fought over the Opium Wars. And if you will simply review your history books, you would find that out.
You got to realize that there are a lot of people, hey, any of you people in the audience, if you knew that there was somebody in your school or where you worked that had AIDS, would you want to hang around them? All right.
It's not making any sense.
If you knew that I had AIDS, would you want to hang around me?
I wouldn't want to hang around you anyways.
Okay, well, I'll tell you. I'm not so sure about you, so you're out of here, too.